The area in Sultanahmet Square has long been the centre of the various civilizations which ruled Istanbul. During the Roman and Byzantine eras, it was used as a hippodrome, while under the Ottoman Empire, it was an equestrian square. The column of Constantine Porphyrogenitus is made of stone blocks placed on a marble base. All that's known about this Byzantine monument is that it was restored and embellished in the 10th century by Constantine Porphyrogenitus VII. In 1204, during the Fourth Crusade, the bronze relief plaques that adorned the column were ripped off and melted down for reuse. The bottom of the pit approximately indicates the original level of the hippodrome. The serpentine column was originally erected in front of the Temple of Apollo in Delphi. The column, made of 3 entwined serpents supporting a huge golden bowl on their now missing heads, was a donation of the 33 Greek cities Federacy. The column is thought to have been brought by Constantine I in the 4th century AD. The upper jaw of one of the serpent's heads is on display at the Archaeological Museum. The obelisk was erected by the pharaoh Thutmosis III in the year 1450 BC in Egypt to commemorate his victories in Asia. It's known that a ship was built upon the commissioning of Justinianus to the Alexandrians to carry the obelisk to Istanbul. The obelisk is 20 meters long, with a 6-meter piece missing. It rests on 4 bronze blocks on a 6-meter-high marble base. The obelisk is also known as the Obelisk of Theodosius, named after the base it rests on. The reliefs on the base depict the battles of Theodosius I and his experiences in Istanbul. It's known that there was a bronze globe symbolizing the earth on top of the obelisk, and that this globe fell during an earthquake in 865 AD. There are Latin and Hellenistic inscriptions on the base. The Blue Mosque, one of Istanbul's most important monuments, immediately astounds every visitor to the city. Located directly opposite the Hagia Sophia Museum, the mosque takes its name from Sultanahmet Square. It's the most important of the mosques built as an endowment to the city during the Ottoman Empire. The Sultanahmet Mosque was commissioned by Sultan Ahmet I when he was only 19 years old. Its English name, the Blue Mosque, stems from the more than 20,000 blue Iznik tiles which decorate the interior of the structure. The monument is the most typical example of classic Turkish Ottoman architecture. The mosque was designed by the architect Mehmet Aga, whose unfortunate predecessor was found wanting and thus executed. Sultan Ahmet was so anxious for his magnificent creation to be completed that he often personally assisted in the construction work. He died just a year after the completion of his masterpiece, at the age of 27. Turkish architecture reached its peak during the Ottoman period. Beside the mosque, there were soup kitchens, theological schools, hospitals, Turkish baths and tombs. During the classical period, mosque plans changed to include an inner and outer courtyard. The inner courtyard and the mosque were inseparable. Sultan Ahmet Medani Square, or the Sultan Ahmet Square, still has many traces of the hippodrome that reminds one of the old traditional ceremonies of the period. Sultanahmet, which means hippodrome, the heart of Istanbul, has a rich, interesting and varied history to boast. During its peak glory, the hippodrome was adorned with a huge collection of historical monuments and trophies that were either made by skilled artisans of the city or brought from different corners of the Ottoman Empire. Seeing people enjoying their Sunday afternoons on the calm, lush green lawns of the hippodrome, it's quite difficult to believe that this is the same place where numerous royal celebrations, chariot races, and deadly massacres took place many centuries ago. The fact that the favourite pastimes of the people in ancient times were chariot racing and horse racing made hippodromes a peculiar and prominent feature of almost all the Greek cities in the Byzantine, Roman, and even the Hellenistic periods. More than any other place in the city, visitors flock to Istanbul to see Hagia Sophia, at once one of Istanbul's most prominent symbols and one of the most important structures in all of world architecture. Although its original name was indeed Hagia Sophia, it's often mistakenly thought that it was named after Saint Sophia. During the first period of its existence, it was known by the Byzantine people as the Giant Church, and only began to be known as Hagia Sophia after Istanbul fell to the Turks in the year 1453. The day that Istanbul was conquered by the Muslims, Fatih Sultan Mehmed went directly to Hagia Sophia upon entering the city. He was amazed at the beauty of the church and immediately converted it into his imperial mosque. Hagia Sophia served as the principal mosque of Istanbul for almost 500 years. The Hagia Sophia has a classical basilica plan. The main ground plan of the building is a rectangle, and the area is covered by a central dome, which is just slightly smaller than the one in the Pantheon in Rome. The interior surfaces are sheathed with green and white polychrome marble, adorned with purple porphyry and gold mosaics. With its massive dome, 40 windows, 100 square metre columns, impressive history, and beautifully restored architecture, the Church of Hagia Sophia is without a doubt one of Istanbul's most magnificent treasures. The gallery level is adorned with several splendid Byzantine mosaics. The frieze and its vaults are adorned with mosaics with geometric motifs and crosses on a gold background. This beautiful apse mosaic depicting the enthroned Virgin and Child is the oldest of the surviving mosaics. The beautiful marble structure in the apse is the mihrab, A mihrab is usually a niche set into the middle of the Qibla wall of a building in order to indicate the direction of Mecca. The round structure in the background is the 16th century Sultan's Lodge. In 1934, Turkish President Kemal Atatürk secularized the building and converted it into the Hagia Sophia Museum. It's Istanbul's most popular attraction and still continues to awe all who enter it. Although the earliest settlements from the site of modern-day Istanbul date from the prehistoric period, continuous stable settlements date from the colonial period, when the area came under the dominion of the Roman Empire. After the Roman era, the Byzantine and Ottoman periods were the most significant epochs in the history of the city. In both of these periods, Istanbul defined itself as a political and religious capital, becoming in turn a major center of Christianity and Islam. Topkapi Palace is the biggest and one of the most popular sites to visit in Istanbul. The main gate, called Babi Humayun, or simply the Imperial Gate, opens up to Hagia Sophia Square. This massive gate, originally dating from 1478, is now covered in 19th century marble. The Imperial Gate is the main entrance into the first courtyard. The sheer size of this stone gate accentuates its defensive character, while its central arch leads to a high-domed passage. This gate leads to a garden known as the First Court. Topkapi Palace got its name from one of the city wall's gates during the 19th century. The construction of the palace began 20 years after the conquest of Istanbul. Passing the first gate, the Imperial Gate, visitors are in the first courtyard, known as the Courtyard of the Regiments. Here, there's a pleasant park, some ruins and columns from the Byzantine period, and a 6th century Hagia Irene church, which is occasionally used for some concerts and art exhibitions. Topkapi Palace is surrounded by high walls. During their 400 years of reign at Topkapi, each sultan added a different section or hall to the palace, in accordance with his tastes or the needs of the time. The second gate has 2 guard towers and is called the Gate of Salutation, because everybody had to salute the Sultan before going through. Above its crest-style door, facing the first yard, is the signature in calligraphy of Sultan Mahmud II, while the 2 sides bear the signatures of Mustafa III. The second courtyard, also known as the Council Square, was laid out in the 1460s. It served as an official representation of the Ottoman state, being ceremonial grounds for state governance. A land wall or fortress, 2.5 kilometers in length, was built around this core, forming an expansive outer garden where kiosks were built, with views of the city and waters.